Okay, everyone, welcome to the New Jersey Film Festival Q&A session. We've been doing these Q&As for the last year since our festival has unfortunately had to be run virtually because of COVID-19. But you know, the festival is now opened up to an amazing audience, and we get viewers from Australia, from Japan, France, England, all over the world have been checking out our festival. So we wanted to be able to provide the same amenities that we normally would have if we were doing the festival live, and that is to be able to have a Q&A with the filmmakers. Now, the way we're doing it is not having the Q&As after the screening, which would normally be the way that we're doing things, but because the festival is virtual and the movies will be on demand on the day of their screenings, that this way you can kind of watch the Q&A ahead of time and then watch it afterward, because they'll be on YouTube links so that you can, watch them as many times as you like and glean as much information about the films that way. The New Jersey International Film Festival will be taking place on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays between June 4th and June 13th, and we will be using eventive.org. They are our streaming platform. And I'm going to just share screen for a second so everybody can see how that works. And so you would normally go to our website, which is njfilmfest.com, to get information. And you would then click on where it says New Jersey International Film Festival, and that'll bounce you to this page. And normally everything would be listed here. Our website is a little on the funky side. I never wanted to look too corporate. We're really a very grassroots film festival and really want to promote the films and not, have advertising and stuff like that all over the place. So normally you would see everything here, but you need to click one more time, and that will send you to our Eventive website, which has listings for all the programs. And so if you want to get information about First Light, you could go to animation, and there's information there by clicking Learn More, and you can see all the wonderful films we're showing that day. First Light is actually going to be part of, is the very first film we're showing on June 4th, and is coupled with a feature film called Bone Cage. And then The Dark Odyssey is part of another series of films, which includes Paradise, which is a feature, Space Case, which is a short film, and The Dark Odyssey, which is the animation. And so we're really privileged today to see three of the makers for First Light and the director for The Dark Odyssey here today. Well, let me just bounce back here to the catalog. So you can get all the information about our screenings, and then you can also go back to the festival site, and it has basic information of who sponsors us. So you can see we do have some corporate stuff there. But the schedule, if you want it in textual form, is here. So you can just scroll down, big pictures and descriptions of all the movies. And so check it out. Hope you will join us for these wonderful movies. But today we're here with Helen Boscov, Julie Gumpel, and Amy Lee Ketchum, as well as Michael Lavine. These are the filmmakers we're going to be talking to today. Now, Amy Lee Ketchum is the director of First Light. Helen Boscov is the writer and the producer. And Stephanie, I think, if I remember correctly, you're also a producer, correct?
Yes, I'm a producer as well.
Yeah, and Michael is Mr. Everything. He did everything on Dark Odyssey, but he also got some help, and he's going to tell us about his movie as well. Since we're starting with First Light as our first film, Ellen, tell us, since you're the brainchild of this film, how did everything come together, and how did you end up working with these two very talented women?
The idea for it came from a dear friend of mine who died suddenly in an accident, and I kept on having dreams that she wanted me to write this for her sister, and so I did, and I knew it was very visual, and I knew it needed to. I knew because in my dreams I saw a lot of imagery, and I knew, and really the story, and also in my music I first tried to create the music for the story, and the music actually is the narrative more than anything else. It contains the whole story. But I saw the visuals, but I wanted everyone else to see them too.
But how did you hook up with Amy?
So looked I looked at animators all over the entire world, and I didn't think of cutout animation. So it took me a really long time to find Amy, and I mean, I decided it could be anywhere in the world, and we both live in the Philly area. So, but finally, I started looking at cutout animations because I just hadn't found the right person yet, and she was the right person, and she was right near me, and I went and talked to her, and the reason why she was the right person is she saw things in poetry as well, and she also worked with the same themes, and her visuals had this in I feel like the friend who inspired it is kind of has an innocence about her as well as a deep love, and her style all reflected that. So it was like a miracle, and so a small miracle, but these things in your life feel like magic, and so then I talked to her, and she was very interested in the project. She said she was well, she can tell you from her.
Yeah, that's going to be my next question.
Yeah.
So Amy, so you hooked up, and how did you start to figure out to kind of craft the musical narrative that Ellen had put together into this film? Because I know that your film deals with kind of 2D cutout and puppet animation. It's very fascinating how you created this hybrid animation.
Yeah, I mean, music is something that is really important in my work. I mean, I have the idea in my mind, and then once I hear the music, it really sets up the structure for all of the pieces to fall into place. And so the music sets the emotional tenor for the work. I work often with this idea of visual scores, and it's an idea of creating like abstract objects or drawings that inform the emotional tenor that I want to create for the piece.
Yeah.
And Ellen gave me this encyclopedic script, which was all of the lyrics for her film with the timing. And then instead of a storyboard, she had paintings from throughout art history placed inside of the script. And it was so helpful to think about time of day and the images she wanted and the painters that she was inspired by. So that's really what helped me put together the script. And at some point, I think I made like a version of the film that was just a color script with all of the paintings at the different parts of the film.
I mean, both of the two films, Dark Odyssey, kind of deals with darkness, but First Light also deals with darkness as well. I mean, they're both kind of dream films for me. I mean, they seem to be coming from the recesses of the subconscious. And Michael, your film is a stop motion animation using, I guess, dolls. Would you call them dolls?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you come to do your film? I mean, what was the genesis of this movie for you?
Well, in a nutshell, I haven't spoken that much about the film, but it's really the opposite of your guys' film, because I wrote a screenplay for I'm a photographer, and I don't really know how to tell stories very well. At least I didn't. And I decided I wanted to learn how. So I spent a long time doing the screenplay thing, which was, learning how to craft a scene and how to tell a story basically through words. And I wrote a screenplay, and I spent years trying to get it made, and I was really struggling, and because there was just so many people involved and money and all these things that just seemed kind of overwhelming, really. And so I kind of was running into a dead end, and COVID happened, and I wanted to do something else, and something that I could do myself, because I couldn't control that other process. So I went the opposite way. And I had been working on making these. I actually made my puppets like 10 years ago, and they put them, and then I moved and I put them in a box, and I didn't use them because I had moved into an apartment that was really too small for me to do any work, and I decided to, I guess, resurrect them and create this world because I wanted to have tell a story that was something different that wasn't related to the, I guess, current environment with being an older white man. Like I felt like I didn't really have a lot to say, like I kind of wanted to step back a little bit and go inside and not be like, trying to mansplain everything to people about this, that, and the other. So, because I have 2 daughters and my wife runs a feminist magazine, and I understand the world, and at least I'm trying to learn it. But anyway, so I'm telling this story with these puppets, and I did the opposite. I was like, well, let me try to write a screenplay, and I wrote 1 page, and I realized that I didn't know how to animate. I didn't know how to do it. So I kind of did it scene by scene and told the story as I was able to do it.
And the story is about 2 men who are transporting a warrior, I guess, to some kind of incarceration, right? Is that the basic story?
He's definitely a prisoner, and they are transporting him somewhere else, which I'm developing the world. But I said it when I wrote the story. I was like, I just had 2 characters, and I kind of built it scene by scene. So then the next thing, I shot it 1 minute at a time. It took me about a year to make, and I would do little sections, and each section, 1 minute section, was like a little had its own story structure, and would develop, and I would do setups and then think about what I wanted to do next, and for the next scene, and then I would say, well, I'm going to I mean, the asteroid field was kind of the main thing. It was like I wanted what would happen if they flew into an asteroid field, and I didn't even know how to make an asteroid. So it was like this whole process. I had to learn After Effects. I was like, what can I do to do this? And the philosophical underpinnings, the metaphysical idea is just something I'm fascinated with. And I was like just fooling around with ideas. You can't have that kind of stilted dialogue with actors. Yeah. So it makes sense to be able to use the puppets to express ideas that weren't necessarily created a language and used different ideas that I guess because they're otherworldly, you could get away with doing that. And then I was like trying to create tension and drama and build a world. I was doing world building really.
But I think both movies are very much like that. They both have a celestial or cosmic element to them, and I think one is, moves to the light and to light and opening up, because it, as Ellen said, it's focusing on death, and I think your film focuses on death as well, but on rebirth. I think rebirth is a very interesting connection between both of the movies. But I wanted, since your film, Michael's film is stop motion, took a year to make. How long did First Light take to make? Stephanie, why don't you speak, since I want to make sure everybody gets their voice heard.
Sure. Thanks, Al. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think in total, well, if you count when Ellen conceptualized the film, I mean, I think that was over 20 years ago, right, Ellen?
Yeah.
And then when Amy got involved, I believe it was about 2.5 years ago. And then I got involved about 1.5 years ago. Amy and a couple of artists did the storyboard for Ellen's music. And then when I came on board, I started bringing in more animators and trying to create just our little remote army so we could really make headway, because the animation process was quite involved in many stages.
Yeah, it's not, I teach animation to my students, and one class we end up maybe using paper cutout animation, you know, the old Terry Gilliam style or Stan Vanderbeek style. And they're like, oh, that's all we did that day. And, you know, it's 20 seconds worth of little
20
cards.
seconds is a lot. That's a good
20
day.
seconds is a lot, but you know,
That's a great day.
they're just throwing things around. But I think that's the beauty. People don't recognize the labor intensive aspect of making an animated film. And
Oh yeah.
I wanted to just segue now, Ellen, the two gals that sing in this film that deliver since Michael's film is voiceover spoken in another language that's subtitled to get information. In your film, we get it orally, right? It's the words are sung to us as to what is transpiring. But these two people who sing do a magnificent job. I wrote their names down, and I wanted to mention who they are. And Maren, Karen Montalbano, and Jessica Beebe.
Maren Montalbano,
Yeah,
and
tell me
Jessica
about them.
Beebe. I was so fortunate to be able to work with them. They both have been, well, Maren sings on 3 Grammy Award-winning albums, actually, and, you know, in choral ensembles. And they both sing on Grammy Award-winning albums, and they're very, you know, they're just fantastic musicians. All the musicians I worked with were, you know, as good as you can get, basically.
Yeah.
And they really put their heart and soul into it. And I took them through the picture book that I gave Amy, and you know, we talked about it, and they I feel like they, you know, they knew they really I don't know. I was very pleased with their work. I was very honored to work with them.
The film, I think, really moves through the music like you wanted, I think. But,
It does.
But I also really like the fact that you used, I mean, Amy, talk about the puppet animation in your film. It's different from Michael's. You guys have not seen each other's films. I want to make sure everybody knows that. Where one is kind of stop motion manipulation, kind of like King Kong. Michael's is a little bit like King Kong, right? Where every movement is subtle and is using puppets that move. But yours is more cutout puppets, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So I took a little peek at some of Michael's work, but it looks like you're using stop motion puppets on a stage, right?
Yes, I built a set, so
yeah.
it's a table.
Yeah, so I have done a film like that, and it is extremely labor intensive, and there is very little room for error, and you have to clean out every single error. So for this film, I thought about doing everything under the camera like that, but because it was so complex with the different background changes and morphing, and we were using replacement puppets with the different faces that go on top of the puppet for every single expression change. It had to involve blue screen. So I animated on a sheet of glass over a piece of blue paper, and then I removed the blue screen, and then in post-production we replaced each of those faces frame by frame. So there's a lot more control involved. Like, you still don't have a lot of room for error, but definitely a lot more control, and definitely more precise than a Terry Gilliam.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of your film too is the way that, you know, some of the imagery is you seem as if it looks as if you're going inside the dreamer's mind and you're seeing what she's dreaming. And I mean, it's very touching. I was kind of misty at the end of your film, and it's very, very beautiful, very uplifting. And I think in Michael's film, you know, it's pretty heavy going. And then it also is kind of uplifting that this warrior makes a transformation and he's able to kind of transcend the situation that he is in. I had I don't know, Michael, if there's any references to 2001. I'm a big Kubrick fan. I teach him, and I thought of, it's a little bit like the Stargate sequence at the end. And am I just crazy thinking that, or is there?
No, I mean, it's clearly there's a direct reference with when he's outside of the ship.
Yeah.
As opposed to the baby.
Like the Star Child or something.
Right, but it was one of those things where I didn't do that on purpose. It wasn't like, it just ended up that way because he had to leave his body essentially, and that physically for him to be out there made sense. So it was logical, really. Yeah. I did use some green screen for my film. Technically, I had the set, but I also was learning. I learned all the programs as I was doing it, like. So After Effects became this thing. I want to figure out how to do it. I'm very good with Photoshop, but I didn't know After Effects, and that was a lot of green screen manipulation to have the warrior floating. I had to green screen it, so you have to shoot it on the green screen and then blend it together with the spaceship. And I was just experimenting, and it's very deconstructionist and very primitive actually on the animation. The puppets don't have fully developed hands, and there's no expression on their faces.
There's a very hand-hewn quality to your piece, and both of yours actually. They're crafted, and I think we get a lot of animation films, and a lot of them are made in a way that is quite disorienting. I think. And they're plastic. They don't really. There's no soul to these animations. They're just kind of computer generated, and that's it. So, both of yours, as well as the other animation that we're showing, have a lot of love in them. My last question to you, Michael, because we're almost out of time, and I wanted to just ask you about Andy Partridge.
Well,
I mean, do you know him? Andy Partridge is the brainchild of XTC, a kind of new wave band, and he's known for his puppetry work too.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love XTC, and I bought tickets to his concert in like 1982, when I was just young, and he canceled because I guess he's like. So I never saw them. But anyways, I am a music photographer, and I know a lot of musicians, but I've never met him. And I did the soundtrack myself. I did the voices myself.
Right.
I did everything myself. I was like, I have to learn Audition. I have to get a recorder. But at the end sequence, I felt like it because I was doing like coffee grinder recordings to make the noise of the engine. But the end, there was this finale, and it felt like it needed some sort of epic build that had music. Yeah. And I hadn't really used any music, and I was searching for the right piece of music, or I was trying to make it. I was like, I can't make this. This is above my pay grade. And I literally, coincidentally, accidentally found a piece of music on the internet called, and it was like a science fiction soundtrack called Powers, and it was written by Andy Partridge. And he looked. Powers was a poster design guy from the '60s, and Andy made this record kind of based on these
posters. Yeah.
Posters. Mm-hmm. So I literally emailed them. I couldn't figure out where the album was. It was very obscure.
Yeah,
it took me a long time to track it down, and I finally reached the manager, and I said, "Can I use here's my project. Do you mind if can I use your music? It would be perfect." And they were like, "Yes."
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, since I think, I don't know if you ever sent it to him. You should, because I think he'll really
did.
Like it.
I recently sent it to him, and he said, and he sent me a note. My wife was like, "That is such a great note. You have to, print it out and frame it." I mean, just to have him respond.
Yeah.
He was into it, and he was like, more. So hopefully I'll be able to, because I'm doing a second episode. That's like the
both of you guys should make sure you always send us your new work, because we love it, and we really want to, nurture your work and make sure our audience gets to check it out. Folks, since we're just about out of time, I'm sorry I didn't get to go around the horn one more time, but I want to go share screen again. And I wanted to make sure folks know how they can come and check us out. And so here's the share screen we had before. You would come to the homepage, which is the sexy Busby Berkeley image that we have. And then you would click on where it says Summer 2021 schedule at njfilmfest.com. Then you would click on the link where it says Watch Eventive to click where it says Buy Tickets and See Schedule link. You click on that, and then it brings up our catalog page. And you can scroll through. We're showing 25 films that were selected out of over 550, around 550 entries, you know, which is not Sundance. They get thousands, but we show about the same amount of films that Sundance does, which is 4% of what we got. We are screening. So you guys are in very good company. The movies are screening again in June. You can check out the lineup at our website. And First Light is our first film, and we're very proud to open with that. Michael's film is playing with a film called Paradise, which is by a German director, and it's a sci-fi film. And then we also have another sci-fi themed short that's playing with it. So I hope everyone will join us for the New Jersey International Film Festival screenings. I want to thank you all, Ellen, Amy, Michael, and Stephanie, for joining us at this Q&A. And there'll be more of them to check out. So check out our Facebook page. They're always posted there. And we'll be sending, anybody who buys a ticket gets links to all of our Q&As. So thanks so much for participating. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.